Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. Military families are not like your traditional family. They are strong, brave, resilient, and some of the most incredible people I know. My name is Gracie, a U.S. Army brat, and I am your host. I am honored to be able to give military family members like myself a place for them to share their stories and experiences in the military life. Stay tuned for this week's guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Grace of a Military Child and Life. Today, I'm here with Erin, who is a Navy spouse and owner of the Dainty Forces Co. So, Erin, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So, tell us about, being a military spouse and what that is like for you.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, it's like, where do I start with this? I feel like I know, right? It's like, there are so many things that I could say. I really do feel like being a spouse is such a interesting, I guess, like title to have, because it's like, for most people, it's like, what does a spouse look like? That's like not military or affiliated with the military.
Right.
Like, I know for like us, like, moving around every, 3 years, having to figure out like new jobs, new positions, figuring out family, figuring out what you're going to do with your pets, where are you going to move? What's that going to look like? Do you have friends there? Do you not have friends there? And I really just feel like a spouse's life looks just so different, because instead of like, having like your regular like 9 to 5, I feel like, which most people do have, it's like, oh, you could work from like 6 p.m. to like, 4 a.m. Or you could just, be like a stay-at-home wife, or you could have like myself, like run your own business and be your own boss. So I feel like a spouse just looks like so different for everybody. But for me, I do run my own business. I did decide that I wanted to go more of the entrepreneurial route. So in, oh my goodness, I'm trying to think, April of 2023. So about a year and a half ago, I decided to open up the Dainty Forces Company, and we're a fine handmade jewelry company that is based out of Honolulu, Hawaii. So if anyone's stationed on Oahu, hi everyone.
Yes. And honestly, like, it's so hard as a spouse, not that I necessarily know, but
you've also lived in like this military lifestyle as well too. Yes. So it's like, so you have seen so many things, and especially being like a military child, like, you've seen so many things growing up too. So
yeah. And even, seeing my mom, like she worked, and, my dad being reserve, it was a little different, but his day job was a corrections officer on the special response team. And so, a heavy working job. And so my mom, when she was looking for her job, she had to look, okay, well, you don't necessarily know when, the Army is going to call and say, hey, we need you. Like, so you don't know that. And then you don't know, his civilian work schedule is 6 to 6, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and every other Wednesday. So like 2 really hard working jobs. And so when she found her job, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to work in the school districts because I'm going to be on the same schedule as my sister and I. And when she's out of school, we're out of school. When we're out of school, she's out of school. And even when I was in 4th grade, she worked in the middle school. And the way they did it was that we had like an elementary building, and then we had an intermediate school for 4th and 5th grade, and then the middle school. And so I would get out of school and walk over to the middle school, meet her there, and then we'd go pick my sister up because my dad wasn't there. He was deployed or he was working. And there's just so much that you have to think about as a spouse. And then, you put kids in the picture, it's a big thing. And then, you put dogs in the picture, it's a big thing.
We're just like your kids, like.
Exactly, dog mom. So you have to, that's even me, like going in, I'm like, oh, I want a dog. But then what if I get called for a deployment? Like, what if this happens? And it's like, okay, well, yes, you need like, a little companion, so you don't get lonely. But then at the same point, like, it's a whole added responsibility that you don't necessarily know. And then, being in Hawaii, there are so many other restrictions of pets and quarantine and all of that.
Yes. Yeah, that was like a whole thing that we had to go through, especially having our three dogs. And it was just, we were very fortunate enough to find out that we were able to get all their paperwork done ahead of time so they didn't have to quarantine. But there was a situation with one of our dogs where they had to get their rabies vaccination because there's no rabies on the island. And there was a situation where she didn't have enough of something in her system. So she wasn't eligible to go. And we had to get it redone, resent to the lab, retested. And there was a 3-day time period. And mind you, we drove all the way from Florida to California to fly over the Pacific to get to here. And there was,
gosh.
and I think we were actually in, I think Texas or Arizona when we had that 3-day window of basically them saying like, you're good to go. And my husband and I had this conversation, what were we going to do if she didn't pass again? And I think we actually decided that I would have stayed back with her until she passed and like take her over. But thankfully we were able to, like, she was able to pass her test, get the results in and send them over to Hawaii. They accepted her. And then we just, went from there. But it was a very scary, little time frame where we were like, what's going to happen? Is she going to come with us? Like, we are not leaving our dog. We are not leaving her. So.
No, and there's people who would just leave their dogs. I mean, you and I were talking about it with the hurricane. Like,
oh my gosh, see, that was wild. Yeah, that made me like actually angry with like that one video that I saw with the dog tied to that fence. Yeah, I just, your pets are a part of your family, and I will stand by that. You know what I mean? So,
like if you are responsible enough to get a dog,
yes,
pet in general, like you are responsible enough to care for them.
Exactly.
And, you should always have some sort of a backup plan. Like if something fails, like you said, you were going to stay behind. If something fails, what do you do? Because you can't just say, okay, hold on, military, you got to wait a second.
Let me just let me just get my, get my animal kind of thing. And it's just like, so, but there are some, really good organizations that, hopefully are able to like help with situations like these, you know what I mean? And I remember you saying a little bit earlier how, you're thinking about getting a dog. And if you go on deployment, I know that there's this organization called Dogs on Deployment that I've heard about before. And I've heard that like so many amazing things. And actually, one of my friends, because like in the club we all fail. No, one of my like customers / friends, I actually believe work for Dogs on Deployment, and it's just like really cool, organization. So maybe that's something that they also do too, if there's like a situation with like a dog where you're unable to take it with you, or if you need a little bit more time, so it's like, or maybe that's just like a new side business that I might have to, convince my husband. It's like it'll be like, Erin, more dogs. I'm like, well, it's for a good cause. Like, people need a little bit more time,
like we already have 3, like.
I know, right? I know. It's like, what's one more, like.
Right. At that point, you just keep adding.
Yeah, exactly. It's like by this point, we'll have like a farm of like 27 dogs.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then, try to move with, 27 dogs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just like, all right, everybody just pile in.
Pile in, get another trailer.
Yeah, literally. Just
make it all comfy, cozy.
Right. Just grab like a horse trailer for all the dogs.
Right. And those are things that you have to think of being a military family. Like you don't necessarily, like you living in this civilian world, you get a dog, you get a cat or whatever. And it's like, okay, like carry on through the life. Like you're okay by yourself at home for 8 hours while I go to work. And then, that's not how the military runs. They, might call you in and say, you're not allowed to leave until, XYZ happens. And you don't know when XYZ is going to happen.
Or they could be like, oh, by the way, we're going to extend you another 5 hours stay. And it's like, well, I have my dog at home. Like, who's going to help me with my dog, but like, thank God for like Rover and, all these other like organizations too. Like, we actually have used Rover a couple times. Or like even like your neighbor just be like, hey, your emergency contact that you just met 5 minutes ago. You're like, hey, by the way, I just want to call you up and just, talk about, could you come help with my dog? So.
And that's why the military community is so important in finding your people.
Yes, exactly. And that's also like another really like good point to touch on too. It's just like, if I didn't have like, those like, I guess like my little, group of people that, I could
Yeah.
really like connect with, like, military and not military, because I do have a lot of military friends, but I also have a lot of civilian friends too. And it's just like, if I didn't have them to lean on, like, I don't think I would be in the place that I am today without them. So like, shout out to all your like, military community friends and family, the friends that turned into family, and like you just have
Yeah.
them for, for life.
Yeah. And that's literally the thing. And I like that you mentioned civilian friends too, because you need those people who,
Yeah,
military, the whole military community is so transient sometimes that you don't know when you're moving, you don't know when your best friend is moving. And so you have to have
exactly.
those people who are kind of stable and
Hmm.
local to wherever you are. And plus it's always kind of fun to
Yes.
have local friends too, to kind of show you
Yes.
around the area, or um they know the good places to eat or whatever that's not
Yes.
McDonald's. And
Right, exactly. I will
so
have to
it's
say
good to
my
have both.
Oh yeah, like my really good friend Brella that I met actually working at the NEX. She is like local here, and she's just like honestly like one of the best humans I've like ever met. And she's like go here, go here. You have to try this. You have to go here. Like don't go here,
Yeah.
go here. Like I'm just like I love you. like, like so having like those local friends are just like the best people.
Yeah. Well, and then like, you move somewhere and then you have the local friends. So then it's like, okay, I want to come back and visit. Like you always have someone to come back and visit because 9 times out of 10, your military friends are going to be all
Somewhere
over the world.
else. Exactly. I'm like, which is another really good reason to like, like just to keep like that friendship like alive. Where it's like, oh, like your friends in Italy, like my best friend Maddie, and she's in Italy. I'm just like, hey, what if I just like come to Italy, like and come and see you, like.
Like I'm
So
on my way.
yeah, I'm on my way. Just be like, just save a pizza, save a slice of pizza for me. Thank you.
Yes, some pizza and some pasta.
Yeah.
And that's the other fun part is that you always have someone to visit wherever you go. Like you could
Yes.
call up, like you said, your friend in Italy. Like there was last year in 2023, all I did was travel. And so
Yeah.
I went to Washington because I have people in Washington. I went to Ohio. I have people there, Maine, just all over the place because I have people there. And I never once paid for a hotel room because it was like, okay, well, you can just come stay with us because
Right.
that's what we do for people in the military community.
Yes. It's like those friends that become family. And it's like I said earlier, it's like, hey, I met you 5 minutes ago, but like my new emergency contact for life now.
Yeah.
Like you're not going anywhere. So
Yeah. And once you put them on for emergency contact, it's like, all right, well, let's go get coffee now because we have to be best friends.
yeah. It's like what's that sound like? Did we just become just best friends?
Yes. We are best friends now, best friends for life. And then,
yes.
well, that's the other thing too, is like you can't ever burn bridges because you don't know when you're going to come across someone again or somebody, mutual connections and whatever.
Exactly.
You're
Just
going to
like
cross paths with someone again.
yes. Yeah. Cause it's so crazy, like to think about too. It's like, like the military is so big, but it's also so small at the
Yeah.
same time, where it's like you could, meet a friend, like even like my husband, for example, like we were, where were we? We were somewhere and he was obviously went through basic training and like knew somebody through basic training. Like I think it was a couple months ago, he ran into that same exact person.
Oh
Like
my
I think
gosh.
he's been for 14 years, like 14 something years later. And he's like, I know you. And the guy was like, I know you too. And then they just like have this whole thing. And he came home and he's like, you'll never believe what happened to me. And I was like, this is so crazy. But it's just like, it's like I said, it's so big, but it's also so small. And it's just so fun to like like rekindle, sometimes like
Yeah.
those friendships that you were like, friends with somebody and then like they ended up leaving and then like you going to be with them or like seeing them like in public or, being stationed with them again in like the same spot. So it's just really cool sometimes how like the world works that way too.
Yeah. And I always say, when I moved from Texas, I was 12. And so my parents were like, you are not getting social media until you're 18. Like that was just, their thing. And so I was 12 and I didn't really text much. Like that wasn't a thing when I was 12. Like we didn't text back and forth. And so, I've lost all of those friends.
Yeah.
And then I'm 18 and now I'm like, okay, social media is a thing now. Like, let's go and find all of these people. And you find them and you start having conversations, and it's like nothing ever happens. Like, you're still best friends, even though 8 years have gone by. And it's
Yes.
like, where did time go? Like, it's
You
nowhere.
just,
Like, it,
yeah.
rekindle that friendship, and it's like, oh, like, we're
Like, oh,
still
there you are.
actually best friends. Like,
Yeah. Like literally nothing ever happened.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's the craziest thing to say, like, nothing ever happens to your friendships. And it's like, okay, well, no, 8 years did, but
yeah, but
we're
just a little,
14, like,
yeah, like a little time between,
yeah, it's nothing. And then you have all of these fun stories to share and everything. And like, literally, it sounds like something that would come out of a book.
Right.
Most of the time you start talking about these things and you're like, oh, that's a fairy tale. Like, that doesn't happen. It's like, no,
Yeah.
this does happen.
Yeah. It's like based on a true story.
It's the fine print at the very, very beginning.
Right. Like the little disclaimer, like kind of thing. Like,
yeah, and you don't believe it until it actually happens to you, and you're like, oh, this is real. We're
right. Like
we're living in reality, not a fairy tale.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And like, even to the point of like getting orders to Hawaii, like, I'm sure that's like a once in a lifetime thing. Like, it rarely happens.
Yeah, like I remember like when we were like, or I guess like when I say we, like my husband was like selecting orders, like he asked me, he's like, oh, like where would you want to go? And I was like, I don't know, like, well, like well, I think the biggest question that we had was, where can we go? Like especially like at that time.
Where do you want to go?
Exactly. Like, where can we go versus like, where do you want to go? Yeah. So, he was looking at all these like different options and he said, oh, well, Hawaii's on the list of places to go. And I was like, oh, like, I guess like, like that would kind of be fun. Like we can go to Hawaii. And I think we put that as our first pick. And, typically from what I've heard, you don't get your first pick like ever. No. And he came back and he was like, okay, he's like, I guess we're going to Hawaii. And I was like, you better stop because like, that's crazy. Like we got our
Don't be joking with me.
Yeah. Like, don't. I was like, let me just grab my swimsuit. No, kidding. But like, but yeah, so we ended up, so we got our first pick here, moved here in 2020. And then when he was up for orders again, this time it was kind of like, hey, we're going to tell you where to go. So they decided to keep us here another 3 years. So we have about another like year and like some change here. We're supposed to be PCSing in February of 26 or sooner, like maybe like January, but nothing like, crazy. You have to move like right now type of thing. So
that you're aware of, at least.
That I'm aware of, yeah. Unless there's like a random like glitch in the system where like they're like, oh, by the way, you have to report in 30 days. Like, do you know you have 30 minutes? No, I'm like,
yeah, exactly. So, they're like, you need to get on the plane right now. You're already late.
Right now, yeah. It's like get your dogs, get your stuff, get on this plane, go to where you need to go. So, but that's that was kind of like how we just like ended up like deciding. I think I'm not even really sure like where exactly we were trying to go when we were deciding from Florida to, to where we were going to. And it's also like really nice too, that he was like, but also too, I think that it's like really important for me, like talking about like spouse things. It's really important for me, for my husband to like know where he wants to go first, like where he wants to go. Because I think like, like I could be, and I don't know if this is talking like, out of context or whatever, but it's like for me, like I want him to be in a good mental state where it's like he feels good and comfortable in the places that he decides that he wants to go versus me being like, I want to go here. And if he's like, I don't really want to go there, then it's like, well, this is where I want to go kind of thing. And it's like, especially like in our relationship, like we do have like a very like, very, very, very healthy relationship in the sense of like, we always talk things out. And, for me, I feel more comfortable discussing things with him and being like, okay, this is literally your career. I was like, yes, like I am a part of it, in ways, but I was like, but mentally, like I want you to be in a good place for where we decide that we want to go.
Yeah.
So like that was also like a really big reason why we decided to pick Hawaii, because he's like, I really want to go here. And I was like, okay, like, if this is where you want to go, we
Then let's
can
put it.
then let's go here. So,
Yeah.
and it's been just such like a wild, wild ride ever since we stepped off that plane. So it's like everybody's like, oh, like how like relaxing is Hawaii? I'm like, relaxing. I'm like, I
This is the
don't know.
opposite.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I was like, what is relaxing? Like, what? So,
Like, just send me back to Florida at this point. I'd rather deal with the
just like,
hurricanes.
put me on that plane back to Pensacola, please. Like, thank you. Thanks.
At least there I get the Blue Angels.
Yeah, there's actually, speaking of the Blue Angels, I know this is being recorded or whatever, like for like future things, but
Yeah.
this weekend they're having their isn't their last
It's
air
homecoming.
show? It's
Yes.
homecoming with the Thunderbirds. I am so excited to like probably like live stream it or whatever, like watch like this gritty live stream or something like that. But that's also one thing that I really missed about Pensacola too, is like, that's actually like where like Bob and I met. That's where I graduated college. That's where we like, really became like a couple. Like we really have like really good roots there. Our friends are there. So we just like, anytime we get the chance to go back, we're like, let's go. So.
It's so funny that you say the homecoming, because I'm like, I want to go to homecoming so bad because I saw the Thunderbirds this year. And my mom and I, it's kind of been on our bucket list to see the Blue Angels fly over Disney World. And so,
oh my gosh,
we have not seen
it. That'd be so
cool. We want to see the Blue Angels. And I'm like, okay.
Wait, have you never seen them before?
No.
Oh my gosh, girl, where we used to live, we would watch them perform from our backyard. Like I would literally sit and grab my coffee and sit on our back porch, because where it was like we were right on the back end of NAS, and I would just sit out there and they would just be up in the sky. We would just like watch them. I have so many videos and so many pictures of just being like, like being that little fangirl. Actually, did I ever tell you the story how I met one of them and like kind of low key and like, I don't want to say like insulted them, but like I don't know if I've ever told you this story.
No, I need to hear it now.
Oh my gosh, girl, I'm like so dead. I cannot even believe I'm like telling this right now. Because it's so embarrassing. So I worked at Casino Beach Bar, which was like basically for the beach show that the Blue Angels would do. It was like basically the hub. So it was, I believe, like 3 days before the main show. And I was bartending behind the bar. It's an open bar because we're on the beach. And this was just probably, I'm trying to think, maybe like a month or two before I graduated college. And in this time frame, my friend Sam, who was going through all these classes with me, he was there with his dad. And he was kind of sitting close to where our main well was, where we make all the drinks and everything. So there was about maybe like, let's just say like 10 chairs. So chairs 1 and 2 were empty. The third chair was filled by this like man that was sitting there. And then there's about 2 or 3 chairs. And then it was Sam and his dad. So I'm talking to Sam. He's like asking about Bob, asking, we're talking about like graduation stuff and everything like that. So this one guy who's sitting there goes, like, oh, like, is your spouse in the military? I was like, my boyfriend's, in the Navy. I was like, he works at Corey Station. He does like this stuff. And, I was like, oh, like, are you in the military too? And he's like, yeah, I am. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I was like, cause I saw his like remove before flight keychain. And I was like, oh, like, are you a pilot? He's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then, I was like, oh, do you like work at like NAS? And he's like, yeah, I work at NAS. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. And I'm trying to make like small talk with him. And I was like, oh, like, are you like an instructor over there? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, are you a student over there? And he's like, no. And I was just like, oh, okay. I was like, I don't really know a whole lot about like, the aviation side of things. And he's like, I fly the, I fly the F-18s, like the blue and yellow ones. And I felt my soul exit my body. I was like,
I know the blue and yellow ones.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't know what to say. So I said, oh, that's cool. I was like, oh, that's cool. I I see you guys fly, like from our backyard, like all the time and stuff. And like at that point, I felt, like I told you, I felt my soul leave my body, and I felt myself just, I think I lost like all the color and feeling in my whole body at that point, because I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just insulted this man. Like, not.
You're asking if he was a student, and he's like, no, I'm better than that.
He's like, I am the ideal student.
I am as good as you can get.
Oh my gosh. I will never, ever forget that. And I don't even know who that man was. I don't know what number he was. I don't know anything. I didn't even ask, because at that point I was like, I just felt like the most silly person. Like, because you just never know. Because obviously, like, they're just like regular people, just like, everybody,
yeah, and you don't
else.
know.
And you just don't know. Like, you just never know. Like, and especially working in, the service industry for like as long as I did, like going through school, I was like, you just met all these different types of people. And it was just, it's so cool to like have those connections. But like that story will never. So, like, speaking of the Blue Angels.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And like, I mean, even meeting when I met the Thunderbirds.
Yes, I remember your pictures.
Not even the actual pilots. It was like the grounds crew. And I was still like shaking so much. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy.
It's so cool.
Like, it's like meeting a celebrity, especially in the military world. You're like, you idolize. Because this, the Golden Knights, the Thunderbirds, the Blue Angels, that's like, you think military, that's our stunt crew. That is, those are our performers. Those are, those are the face of the military. And it's like, oh my gosh, when you meet them, it's literally like meeting a celebrity, even though these people are like the grounds crew.
I mean, but
and they're not even the ones in the sky.
I know. It's still, I think it's just like and I think that really goes to show, like, just like as like a community, and especially like that like niche of a community, like the aviation, and especially with like the Blue Angels, and like you said, the Thunderbirds, it's like it takes a team to do what they do. And it's like, regardless, and our like, even like the grounds people. And I think just like back to like pretty much everything, like, it doesn't matter like where you are in the totem pole, like you matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, like you just matter. And it's just like, and it's really cool to see like, and like I watched some of like their videos of them like preparing and everything. And it's just so fun to watch it. And it's just a really, really cool thing. It's a very dangerous thing. And it's just so incredible to watch just the talent of these people, just being able to do what they do is just so incredible. So incredible. Yeah. So I really hope you get to see the Blue Angels one day, because honestly, that show is wild. I've seen them so many times. Like, it's just like, I probably can't even count them on, if I my 10 fingers, I'm probably like 100 more.
Yeah.
But it's like really cool, especially if you get to see like their like actual show. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I keep walking around and I'm like, so can we just take a 6-hour drive up to Pensacola just to see the Blue Angels and turn around and come home? And my parents are like, it's a 6-hour drive. Like, are you out of your mind? And I was like, I might be.
It's like, we can do that in 6 hours,
Yeah, exactly. But so the last thing I want to ask you about, because I was gonna say, because we're just like we just talk like we're just. I could talk for hours, but time wise now, like you just did this, but by the time this airs, it's going to be like about a year or so old. But you kind of did a rebranding, and I love it, and I love the poppies, and oh my gosh, like tell us all about that and how you kind of came to that.
Oh my gosh, girl. Okay. So I like always like have this joke where it's like when I first started, I don't know, it's not a joke because it's like, real deal kind of thing. But like when I first started, like I really didn't know what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? And it's just
I don't think any of us know what we're doing.
Exactly. And that's the thing though too, is like, when you start a business, it's like the biggest recommendation that I tell anybody is like, just start, like, regardless. I was like, you learn, like you have your mistakes, and then you learn and you build and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. And that's just like the biggest thing. And it's just, when I first started my business, I literally had like two pieces of jewelry, and like like talk about humble beginnings. So I literally had two pieces of jewelry, and all I just really wanted to do was just like make that difference and make that stand in the military community, but not even just the military community, the jewelry in the military community. Because working in jewelry for so long, I basically saw everything from like like service members proposing to their girlfriends, like these this like adorable retired people like buying some keepsake items for like their wife or their loved one, or like this boyfriend who wanted to get something special for their girlfriend going on, when they're leaving for deployment, like anniversary presents. And, I really felt that jewelry is more than just like a piece of jewelry, especially when you can have like a night, like a meaning behind it. And that was just really the one thing that I really wanted to just stick to the core and like have that about our business, because that is just so important to me. And I really wanted to make a stand in the military community, being the jewelry brand of the military community. And that's just kind of what we're striving for. Now, with that being said, during the first year of business, I had a lot of successes, but I also had a lot of fails. And one thing that I really did feel was I felt like our previous logo was not really representing who we were as a brand, just like either like, military or non-military, because I want to make this jewelry very universal for everybody. So it's not like, I'm not military, I can't wear this. Like that was not the direction that we wanted to go. We wanted to make it for everybody, but also keep our roots to the military, being like, this is our brand. And so we have a little bit of both. Right. And the biggest thing about choosing the poppy is, the poppy is like the staple flower for the military. It's about remembrance. And it's the biggest thing of like, that's why I wanted our logo to be the poppy, because we wanted to show that side of us that is our core roots, is, being tied to the military, but also remembering where you came from, whether that's, we came from like your humble beginnings, like we did. Yeah. Or, remembering, that time that you went through that hard deployment, that time that you, took that first step at your big job, applying for that promotion, applying for that position, going through like your first, being a mom for the first time. Like we want to have that be your remembrance. And that's why we decided to undergo that huge brand change, and really just kind of sticking to our core roots, but also making it match our vibe and our aesthetic for everybody to see. Cause, like I said, like we are military at our core, but we want our jewelry to be for everybody, and everybody's welcome to buy our jewelry for whatever walk of life they are through, and to help them tell their story.
I love that. And like, you can't really see it. My microphone's I have my little dandelion, and I have the one-of-a-kind army
necklace. I know. As soon as I saw you make that post, you're like, I am going into the army. I was like, immediately, I was like, stamp. I'm like, I was like, I could not get this to her fast enough, because I am so incredibly proud of you for everything. And because we've known each other for almost a year and a half now. Yeah. Like really, we have. And it's just like seeing you going from like where you were, from like finishing your master's degree to like, going into the army, to like waiting to go. And at this point, like I'll be
hopefully through basic training at this point, like
by then and everything like that. But it's just like so incredible to like see like how far like also you have like progressed through like just like everything in the last year and a half. So like, I just, like I said, I wanted to give you something that, because you've literally been like, and this is funny, like since day one, literally. And I wanted to make you something just very special, like just for you, for you to like, I guess, kind of like, remember us and like, remember our friendship too, and everything like that too. So
I promise I never will, because on my bulletin board, like over here for the longest time, I had, because you always write the little notes on the shipping labels. And so I had it stuck to my bulletin board for the longest time. And it literally said, "Go Navy, be Army." And I'm like, like, no. And it was literally from last Christmas, because it said "Happy Holidays" on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, okay, this is outdated now. I have some other ones.
Like I may or may not write "Go Army" on something, but like, well, maybe like you can have it officially hung up.
Yeah. But like, that's I mean, going back to the whole, it's the military community thing, you know, it's, you know, it's crazy. And sometimes it's hard to put into words exactly what this community is, what we represent, who we are. And it's like, you have to be part of it to understand it. Like, you won't. And, you know, I cannot wait till the days that I'm in uniform. Oh my God. I can wear earrings again and have the in regs earrings in.
I literally I'm more excited to see it like that day where you're like, you know, you could take a picture of like uniform. I'm just like, that's my friend. Like,
listen, as soon as I can get one, as soon as I get my phone back, as soon as I have my uniform, there will be one.
Oh my gosh. I am literally so excited for you. Oh my God. I'm so excited for you in this journey that you're about to take. Like I said, I know it's going to be recorded, like you're going to be out and doing all the things, you know, but I'm just so incredibly proud of you. Oh, this is so exciting.
Oh my gosh. That means the world to me because like literally this podcast is how I've made some of my greatest friends. Like it's been the biggest whirlwind of my life because I would have never imagined, you know, from day one, like meeting so many friends through it. And then here we are like 3 years into it. And it's like tons of friends have come back, you know, from it. And it's the greatest thing of my life. And it's the biggest support of my military journey. Cause, you know, I was even talking to my dad about it. I was like, okay, well, I have so much to do before I leave and I have to get all of these posts scheduled and yada, yada, yada. He's like, well, they're going to understand because they're going through it too. Like they're going to understand you miss a post here or there. Like it's not a big deal.
Like it's not going to be like, it's like, oh, I can't believe you. It was like, oh, you're in training school right now. Like, how dare you? You know what I mean?
Unfollow.
Unfollow. Yeah. Like, it's like, I'm sorry. She missed Tuesday's post. Exactly. Unfollow.
That's enough.
Red Friday.
We don't care.
Block. No.
Right. But yeah, so it's going to be the best journey ever. And I cannot wait, you know, for it. And then to hopefully cross paths with, you know, you and everyone.
Oh my gosh. I always like joke with my friends. I'm like, what if we could just get like stationed together again?
Right? Wouldn't that just be the best thing ever?
Possible somehow, some way, you know what I mean? So like, you know, fingers crossed, you know, if you do end up like, you know, getting stationed like here, somewhere else, you know, like eventually because like, we have another 6 years in the military. So like eventually we'll cross paths at some point. So I'm just so excited.
And if not, you can just come visit me after you retire. Like
exactly.
Who cares? Like, don't wait until retirement. Just come visit and I'll come visit.
Like,
and all of that.
Like now, like we'll figure it out.
Exactly. So, okay. To wrap this up, what is one piece of advice you would give to another military spouse?
Ooh. I always feel like these questions are not difficult, but it's like, I just feel like my answer changes every so often because like you just kind of like go through like all these new things. I think the biggest thing that I would just say is like, just take it day by day. You know, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You are not going to figure it all out in one day. And I promise you that I probably won't figure it out in a week, a month, a year, you know, 2 years, but like, you know, just always just keep looking forward and don't stress about the small things, you know, because once you start stressing, you start, you know, like dwindling and then you start spiraling. And that's just like, you need to just like, you know, like if you need a moment, take your moment. And, you know, it's healthy. It's natural to just, you know, have a moment because this is such a crazy lifestyle that really nobody, unless you were like actually like in it or whatever, like you just don't know about it. And I just think that, you know, just taking it day by day and really just focusing on the things that are important. Like don't focus on just like the random willy-nillys, whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, just, you know, the biggest thing is you got this, you know, like, you know, don't let anyone dwindle your shine. You know, this is your journey with your spouse, with your family, with your kids. You know, you do what you need to do just to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And then where can listeners connect with you and shop Dainty Forces Co?
Yes, so we do have our website, thedaintyforcesco.com, and we also are on Spousely as well. So at the Dainty Forces at Spousely too. We're all on all types of social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Threads. And we're always posting new products on there, all of our sales and everything like that too. So we would love to connect with you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Erin, for coming back on the podcast.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. Yes, yes, man. Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Thank you for listening to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, follow, and comment. Also, be sure to check out Instagram and Facebook at Grace of a Military Child and Life for more awesome content. For information on the podcast, Military Child Bigs and Littles, Go AMCL blog, or other resources, visit www.goamcl.org. You can also email me at Gracie, that's GRACIE @GOAMCL.org with any questions or comments. To be a guest on the podcast, you can schedule it at www.goamcl.org/schedule a podcast, all one word, or contact me via social media or email. Stay tuned for the next episode where another incredible story is shared.